As a business owner, how do you know when it's time to let go of being in control of everything and focus on leading your team versus managing your team? It's a big distinction, and there comes a time where the business is going to get too big for you to be in the day-to-day, and you have to get out of it. And today we have a special guest who's going to teach us how to do exactly that. Welcome to the KeyHire Small Business Podcast, where we cover the issues that help owners scale their small business. I'm Corey Harlock, creator of KeyHire Solutions, and I'm going to be your host today. Our guest today is Kristina Tyler, and she's a coach and partner in Flow Fiero, where they developed a scalable product for high-performance coaching consulting that enables those who believe in bettering themselves and being the best can have access to customizable and affordable support. Her business was founded because they wanted to bring the energy, intensity, and team camaraderie from the sports world into the business world. Her dad used to be an Olympic level hockey coach, and we'll chat a little bit about that. She's lived in 8 different countries on 3 different continents, and she speaks 3 languages fluently, blah, 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 show off. And she grew up riding competitive horseback riding. She broke in a few young horses, so she really understands the sensitive energy and has learned that from horses, the sensitive energy of horses. And she's learned how to see energy shifts in people. And it's her dream to share this experience through coaching retreats. So Matt, let's bring on Kristina. Hey, how are you?
Hi, Corey.
Cool.
Good, how are you?
Okay, first question. We always you can't leave people hanging. What are the 3 languages?
English, French, and German, or actually English, German, and French. That's the order of fluency.
So you're born on the east end of the island, is that correct?
West Island in Montreal.
Oh, you're west. East is the French side, right? I should know this stuff. My wife is from the east side of the island. She's a French speaker. Very cool. So we have that in common. Montreal's such a cool town. You're there now, right?
I am back there now. Full circle.
Very cool. And one of the most interesting things, that's not true. One of the things I found interesting, because I'm a hockey freak, is your dad used to coach Olympic level hockey over in Europe, and that's what took you over there, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's right.
Very cool. Are you a hockey fan?
I was forced into it, if anything. But yes, I do enjoy going to games as well. I'm usually the loud one somewhere yelling at the ref.
Yeah, Montreal is the place to see a game, and we're recording this while the playoffs are going. But by the time it airs, the playoffs might be over. But Montreal's down 0-2. I got them in my bracket. I want them to beat Washington.
Well, I hope they do.
Yeah,
Just for the city vibes. Just for the city vibes.
Yeah, I can imagine it's a fun place to be during playoffs.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So we are talking about kind of letting go and how to focus on leadership today. We always like to start with some definitions. So how in your business do you define leadership and what does that entail? And then what do you mean by letting go? How do you define that?
So start with leadership. I think leadership is a habit. It's something that, often is leadership can be looked at as positional, but I think it's more of a mindset. And when we're talking about the entrepreneur, the owner going from the day-to-day business or letting go of that to leadership, then it's all about shifting the mindset of how the business is being perceived and what their role becomes once they move from doing the day-to-day into the leadership position.
Okay. And then what's the day-to-day?
And the day-to-day, so I think just to give a timeline or paint a picture, the day-to-day is about when you're starting your business, you have multiple hats on, you're doing everything, and all the processes and successes go through you or happen because of you, because you are the mind behind it. The reason you started a business in the first place is because you had a certain vision. And then the people that you brought on board are often your friends or someone in your close circle, someone that you trust. And they come in because they're able to at that given time and place or moment in time in their careers.
Right. And would you say that sometimes a business owner can become the biggest bottleneck or constraint in their own business?
Absolutely, yes. And that's a core part of what we do with Flow Fiero, is helping the transition from, because it's I think from a hard skill set point of view, it's not that difficult. It's really about the soft skills and the mindset behind, as I said, letting go of those things that you want to make sure are going right, and trusting someone else to be able to do. But the other part is also allowing yourself not to be at the tip of the pyramid anymore, but maybe even being the dumbest person in the room at one point.
That's right. It takes a lot of humility and courage for a business owner to say, maybe this part of the business has outgrown my expertise in it.
Which is a really great thing. That's what you kind of want to have happen.
But it's hard. It doesn't mean it's easy. The things the right things are usually the hardest things, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I always use the analogy. I've hit tens of thousands of golf balls. Doesn't mean I'm ready to be a golf pro. It means I've hit tens of thousands of golf balls wrong. It doesn't mean I know how to golf, right? I'm still a really bad golfer. So just because I do it every day doesn't mean I'm an expert at it. And sometimes you need to go get people who are better than you and can expand that part of the business and get you out of it and free you up to go work on other stuff.
Absolutely. Yep.
Very cool.
Well, you're tens of thousands of hits closer to being an expert. So we can't not celebrate the small wins.
You got to say, yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Not much closer, but I guess, the time commitment isn't linear, right? It's like you put in this many hours and you get this much better. I guess it's like are you a Kobe Bryant fan?
Sure. Yes, of course.
You know how he talks about his training, like I train 3 times a day and you only train 1. So if you put that over the course of years, I'm going to be so much better than you, and it's that stuff where I'm putting in the work.
Okay. The 1% extra every day. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 1% extra. I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot, but 365% over the course of the year, right?
Exactly.
Cool. So when you get into this work, and maybe, you talk about leadership, can you get a little deeper into what are the elements when you talk about leadership? I'm sure there's lots of different elements within that. So what are those elements that you see under the leadership banner?
Yeah. So one of our models that we go to all the time is there's 2 parts to it, or 2 levels, because, if there's no one to lead, then there's no leadership necessarily, right? So it does always include the rest of the organization and the culture, but we do start with who we like to call as the captain of the ship, which is usually the owner, the founder, the entrepreneur. And the first piece is the transformational journey, where they need to really go and get into the mindset of what do they need to change about themselves, or what can they change about themselves to better support what the business needs. And that's the questions that get answered typically are like, what's the game I'm playing? Who am I playing against? And what do I need to do to win? And that's the sports approach side from it, right? So, everyone comes into the hockey game saying, I want to win. But what's the difference that makes one team win over the other? And if you have those 3 questions in mind when you're thinking about them, then that's a good start to start transforming or having your vision clear, which leads us into the bigger picture of leadership, which is our model that we call the team model. And it's actually an acronym, which stands for trust, engagement, alignment, and mobilization. And the components that go into that for trust, for example, it's all about competency and character. So do I trust that this person is capable or able to do the things that they've been hired to do? And then do I believe them? Do I believe that they're going to show up in a consistent way? Are they, and trust is usually seen as something positive, but I'm sure we've all had that friend that always shows up at least 15 to 30 minutes late. So you can trust that person will not be on time and therefore make adjustments. But as long as it's consistent, then you can trust it. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I have so many questions. I need to go back. So what were the three questions you start?
What game am I playing?
Yeah.
So that means like, what are you here? What's your purpose? What's your mission? What's your vision?
Okay.
Who am I playing against? So that's what's the field? Where are my competitors? What are their strengths? What's the market like? What do I need to know about myself to be different, etc. A lot about strategy. And then finally, what do I need to do to win?
Love it.
And that's the key question. Yeah.
I like it because it's not fluffy. It's like directly to the point, right? We're here to win. What do we have to do, right? And then you talked about your team analogy, and I find it interesting that trust is that the first one.
Yes.
And is that on purpose because you can't build your team unless you have people you can trust?
Well, the interesting thing is, especially about this topic, from going from founding or starting a business to becoming a leader, is that when you first start, most people that we've seen start with mobilization, which is the last letter. And so yes, it is on purpose that it's like that, because when you flip the letters around, if you like Scrabble, then it says MT or meet. And our slogan or play on words is that if you start with mobilization and don't transform it into the right order, eventually you'll be left with a team or a culture that is empty, or an organization that is dead meat. And it actually, statistically, it shows that organizations that have been running for 5 to 7 years and aren't doing that shift, there's 70% fail rate for those organizations.
And that's really cool. So many questions here. So when is there a tipping point where an owner operator in their business, so your business is going up,
yeah,
and you're doing kind of everything yourself, everything's going through you, and when do you see that need for that constant shift to go from I got this to I need people who have it so I can do other stuff? Is there a tipping point? Is there a specific point in that business growth that you've identified where that happens?
I would say when you start as a leader, as an owner, when you start asking yourself, can I go on holiday for 2 weeks and come back and everything's fine? If the answer is no, then you're at the tipping point or far beyond it. If you've experienced anything like burnout, if you're unable to keep up with the needs of the business, those are all really good indicators. Any kind of stressors, it's all about, like, we do focus more on the emotional, so the EQ side of organizations. So from a KPI, et cetera, that's a lot more black and white. And we tend to you need to have it. It's really important. It's the mobilized part. So I'm sure most businesses have it. But the other part that's important is how you're feeling, how you're doing, how you're able to continue showing up. And when those things alter or become too much, and I think burnout is probably, the biggest buzzword, but it is a really good indicator that, okay, you're ready for change, because your body's not good. You can't keep showing up like this.
And it's interesting because when you talk to business owners, is when we do, and we say, what are your goals? They might give us a financial goal, like 3x my business.
100%. Yeah.
But then they also might say, and go away for a week with my family. Mm-hmm. Like, be able to go away and trust that the business isn't going to burn down. And it sounds to me like those two cannot coexist without causing a lot of harm to yourself, growing your business that much and not being able to go away and having to do everything yourself. It would be very hard.
It's not easy. That's why there's a 70% fail rate.
Yeah.
But it is doable, and it's critical if you want to achieve that dream, right? So that kind of takes us into why we do the transformational journey first, because part of the journey is being able to let go of the things that are comfortable, but are no longer serving you. And that can be really painful. There's grief, there's all the different, there's angst, like someone else is checking my emails and I'm not checking my emails, and you feel like almost naked. Or you forget, you stop understanding, especially if you're at burnout point, the intensity can almost become a bit of an addiction, where if you're not feeling that intensity and putting out the fires and survival mode and chasing, then you feel like you're not serving the same purpose. And I think that's one of the very difficult parts that people or entrepreneurs face when they're going through the transformation.
That's really cool. I don't have any analysis or data to back this up, but I have a theory called addicted to chaos. And often business owners will get not addicted to the quality of their product or service, but how hard it is to deliver it.
Yeah.
And they associate the value with the pain they have to go through. So if you can make it really easy, they think there's no value left in the product or service because it's just too easy.
Yeah.
And okay, we're trying to break that mindset. And we kind of been circle around this, but we always like to move into some of the mistakes you've seen business owners make. And I guess we can phrase this in terms of maybe we can talk around some of the mistakes or the things you've seen around business owners that have maybe waited too long, or the challenges that they face to let go and lead versus staying in the day-to-day muck of the business.
So you want like certain key elements that are the most difficult to let go of, or is there any?
Maybe the EQ that you're talking about, like what have you seen in owners? What or what indicators could they be looking for that they could point to and go, I'm doing that. That might be a sign that I need to let go of things, or call Kristina and get her to teach me how to lead.
So I think that often so the way I see the leader, the owner, especially at the beginning, but even throughout, like they really do navigate the culture and the behaviors of everyone else.
Agreed.
And for me, the saying that I despise the most is don't do what I do what I say, because that is saying like, oh, I'm not part of the culture as the leader, right? You're separating yourself, which you don't necessarily want to do, because then you're not practicing what you preach. You're not setting an example for anyone else to follow. But to your question, I think that when you start seeing that you're doing more work than anybody else, that's an indicator that they don't know what to do next. So if people aren't able to think for themselves, if they're not able to make decisions without checking in with you all the time as a leader, then that means that they aren't aligned or even maybe engaged in or because they don't know, right? It could be because they just don't know. It hasn't been talked about. It hasn't been explained. And that's the problem with starting with mobilization, is that you delegate all the task lists. You're telling everyone what to do, but they aren't able to, because there's nothing beyond what am I supposed to do today? And what is my list? And when I'm through my list, what do I do next? So without the trust, engagement, and alignment before, which is where you really dive into the primal purpose, the mission, the vision, the value, all those beautiful things that you see on everyone's website, but actually putting it into practice on a day-to-day through your leadership, that's what will really get your team to have the permission and have the confidence to step up. So if they're not stepping up, you need to look at the system that you're building for the organization to grow. And the model that we just happen to use is the team model.
Sure. Yeah. Now, so it sounds like you're kind of, if you're micromanaging and holding all the cards, it's hard for people to know what to do and meet your standard, because you often hear that, well, that's you're not doing it the right way. But what they mean to say is you're not doing it the way I do it. It could be the right way. You could get this exact same result. You could even get a better result. So that's on the owner. That's the owner having to look inside and saying, I need to allow people to make mistakes and learn and go beyond. Mm-hmm. But then have you found there's another level where when you empower your people and you give them all of the elements of team, as you call it, if they're still not able to deliver, is that then on the leader or the employee who's supposed to figure that out?
I would say that there's not one size fits all ever. It always depends. Sure. But we do take a systemic approach where if we look at more patterns, you need to observe the patterns as opposed to one event, and dig down into the mental model of what's going on, which is the whole systems thinking. Is if one employee makes a major mistake, and I'm sure we've all been there maybe at some point in our careers where, we thought we did really great. We're so proud of our work. And then the feedback we get is like, well, no, that was completely wrong. And to us, it's like, whoa, like how did I get that so wrong when I thought I was ticking off all the boxes, all my training, I put into practice, and then it's completely wrong. And so there you wonder, like, do I deserve to be let go because I'm not performing to a level? And that's often what happens, is that person who maybe made the mistakes over and over again gets let go because they're not meeting those KPIs. But if you take a step back and say, well, why is that person consistently making these mistakes? Is it because we're not giving them the right information. We're not offering something to them that will help them understand and get there. So that's sort of where I would say that there's no one size fits all, but those would be the two options I would consider before making any quick decisions.
Right. But eventually it could turn out to, wrong person, wrong seat, or wrong person, they're on the wrong bus. They need to be on someone else's bus and not ours.
Eventually, if, it can be that the person isn't the right fit either. Of course, that happens all the time. But I would say over time with the patterns, it should be identifiable whether it's a systemic issue or if it's an individual issue.
Well, that's a cool concept. So to walk us through that, the systemic versus individual issue.
Well, the systemic issue is looking at all the different components that will play into what's happening. So there could be, for example, the systemic issue is that, employees are always underperforming or they're not doing what I want them to do from my perspective as a leader. So we have to deliver this to our client on time. And as a result, I just step in and fill in the blanks and then tell them what they did wrong afterwards, right? So what that leads into, which is the vicious cycle, and we can get into that after too, is that the employees feel like they didn't do well. They got probably yelled at or got really harsh feedback, but they don't know how to fix it because it was taken away from them, the opportunity, because time was something that wasn't available in that given moment because there had to be delivery. So when that happens, maybe the client's happy, but the team isn't enabled. And due to that, they lose engagement, they lose their happiness at work, as well as their own confidence in how they're supposed to be doing their job. And that just keeps getting deeper and deeper and adds on so many more issues. And that's a systemic point of view of what's happening. Now, if there's one person that's doing the same mistake over and over, and they've received training, they've received feedback from multiple different sources, then you might want to consider replacing them.
And that would be the individual problem.
If it's an individual and no one else seems to be having that, then you might want to say, okay, what's going on with that person? Let's have some conversations and see, maybe with also multiple people, not just one source of income or of input.
Very cool. So what other kind of indicators should a business owner be looking for that it might be time to transition and be more of a leader and focus on the business and get out of the weeds?
I would say, when you're looking at, if you're getting to the point where you're financially able to afford things that you want to invest in, if you're doing, training days or getting better tech, things like that, then I would also say that is a very positive and recurring indicator that it's time to start also looking for the talent that can lift the whole organization as opposed to you just pulling from the top.
Okay. And so would you go outside to get that? Obviously, you'd look inside first, but if it's not there, is that when you might go out in KeyHire, we'd call it going out and getting some capacity, getting that leader who can build the process and procedure within that department that might be becoming a bottleneck or have some challenges or holding you back, that constraint?
Yeah. So I think that very often, usually, not before you hit your first 5 to 10 million or whatever, will you have your own internal HR processes or HR person. So in the hiring process, before you get to the point of being able to reinvest in your business because you've started creating, a good cash flow, I think that it's highly unlikely. It's not completely unlikely, but it's highly unlikely that you'll already have the talent in your business that you are able to afford from the ground up that can take the business to the next level, which is also a really challenging part because there's people that have, given their blood, sweat, and tears to get the business to the point, and then you're hiring someone above them, so that can also feel very challenging for the people that have been there the whole time. But if it's done in the right way, with the right mindset, for the right reasons, and everyone's on board, engaged and aligned, then they will also hopefully understand that this is part of the transition period, right? And that means time is over.
I think the key word there was the hopefully understand. We talk about that all the time about, and my personal philosophy is there is no harder decision a small business owner will make than looking at those people that help them build the business and saying, thank you so much for getting me here.
Yeah.
I don't think you can get me to the next level. And having to do that, having to go outside to bring in someone. And we always talk about there's really 3 options. Well, there's 4 options, and it usually ends up at option number 4, no matter what you do. And the first option is you say to them, I want to bring someone in over top of you that can train and mentor you. How do you feel about that? If they built a department and then someone comes in and says, yeah, I don't know, what were you guys thinking? This isn't right. That's hard pill. Option number 2 is we're going to bring someone in over top of you. Is there another area of the business you would like to go to and try another seat because you're valuable and you know the business and you know where all the bodies are buried and you're still very useful. Option number 3 is if you're not happy about it, like start looking for a new job and I'll help you any way I can and be a reference for you. And option number 4 is you fire them. Now, option number 4 is never the first choice, but if people choose option number 1 or option number 2, it usually ends up at option number 4 because it takes a lot. It takes a special person to be able to go through that and accept that and be open to it and not get a little toxic or bitter or pissed off, right? And so then what used to be your number 1 ally in your business becomes this person who's upset and you're trying to push forward and they're trying to push back, and it can turn the relationship in a nasty way sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why it's important to be able to approach this in a non-vicious cycle or non-drama triangle kind of way. Yeah. Because I've been in a position throughout my career where I have been hired above people that have been in the startup almost from the get-go. And they were upset. They were really upset. And I spoke to them because, just my background. So I took it upon myself to talk to them. And I said, okay, look, this is what I'm doing on a day-to-day. Do you actually want to do that? And they looked at me and they said, no, I really don't want to do that. And I said, great. That's why I was hired to do this job under you. What you're doing today, are you enjoying it? Yes. So, how can we help each other moving forward? And that's what it's all about. It's about the communication and how you approach, which is why it's so important from the get-go to also understand what are your values going to be, what's your intention, and the trust, engagement, alignment is so important because it's not about replacement. It's not about making someone feel bad. It's about looking at where the business is going and how can we all play to our strengths, in the ideal world. Of course, egos always come in. But I think that, with the right approach and maybe some coaching, that things like that can be dealt with in a healthy way.
Yeah. And that's a part of the conversation we have when we bring a new leader, we create a new role for a company and then bring in that new leader. Part of the conversation is be careful. Don't walk in there and say, oh man, what have you guys been doing? This isn't set up right at all. Please understand these people are doing the best they can. They have the company's best, the best intentions for the company. They've worked really hard. They just don't know what you know. And if you go in there and start trashing all the hard work they've put in, you're never going to bring them to your side. So you really have to go in and understand that these are good people doing the best job they can. It might not be at your level, but you have to bring them along. You can't just go in and say, oh, this is a mess. What were you thinking? Mm-hmm. This isn't how you do this, right? You have to kind of say to them, I get it. I know why you did it. Now, what if we did this? I have some ideas here. And that's kind of how you bring them along a little more. But you said the key word there, ego. People come in sometimes and they want to put their stamp on something and they're not, they haven't taken the time, or no one has taken the time to pull them aside and say, here's the background. Here's what happened over the last couple of years. And that person you're about to go talk to has saved our ass for a number of times. And it's really important you treat them with a bit of respect.
Yeah. And what you're talking about here, at least the way that the words that come to mind for me is the communication, transparency, and context. And I think all those things are critical. Again, going back to the model, I know I'm like harping on it, but that's why it's you have to be able to trust the people around you, their competency, that, they are better at certain things than you are, and that's okay. And the engagement part is then leaning into those things and understanding how we're going to work together. And that goes into the alignment, right? Like how are we better side by side or even intertwined for certain things than we are on our own. And if that has been communicated and talked about and learned about each other, where, you know, you do feel like you have a best friend at work, I think it's always important to have that person you can talk to and be open with, and you just are able to say the things you need to say with psychological safety. I think that helps so many problems.
It's so well said, Kristina. I like your model. I think it's great. And I think it's invaluable, because that's why we do this podcast, because so many small business owners out there feel like they're alone on an island. It's me against the world. And they're trying to navigate. This is an important move for a small business owner, to go from that mom and pop shop to start putting in a structure into your business where you have professionals in each of their roles, not people that you hired that stepped up and are doing a good job, but that may not be their training, or they might not have education, or they might not have a ton of experience. And sometimes those people can push you to new limits. Yes. Most of the time they can't. And it's giving me different insight into this transition, because I always go back to, it's the hardest transition a business owner can make. Going from my family, this group of people who helped me build this business, to, okay, now we need to get to the next level, and we need some more horsepower in this, right? And that involves people, and it involves relationships, and it involves emotion, and it involves the ability for people to pay their mortgage and put food on the table, and they got kids in college and school. Like it's a very human experience, right? And you're at the crux of that. You are as the business owner, responsible for all that. And that is part of the responsibility a small business owner wears, is taking care of their people. And when you have to go to them and say, I have to do something that really going to suck here, right? And that's why I think what you're doing is managing them through that transition is so valuable. And I hope they're listening to this and thinking, there is a way we can do this, that it will still be hard, but at least we're going to have someone helping us through this process, and a sounding board, and giving us the toolkit to be able to do it.
Yeah. And I think part of what you just said that just hit me right now, I would almost transition and saying, like, instead of I have to do something that's really going to suck, because it doesn't suck, right? It's actually so exciting.
It's
right?
good.
That's a difficult shift.
It sucks for that person.
Maybe not. They could have this incredible experience at learning from this amazing CFO, CIO, whoever else you need to hire, that they would have never had before. We're not saying, hey, we're the family that built this, and now you all have to leave. We're not saying that. We're saying we need to hire someone who can add value to our family. Right. And you know, we're all in this together. It's going to be tough. It's change. Change is never easy, but we've got each other. We've got each other's backs. Let's go and do this and crush it and get to the next level together, right? Maybe some people won't want that. Maybe they're comfortable, but that's okay, because then that means they have the choice as well to say, right, this is not for me anymore. This is not what I want. And we can let them, right? But I don't,
So you just gave the living definition of glass, or what you just said was, your glass half full, I'm glass half empty. There you go.
Well, together we're full glass, so that's okay.
That's a great distinction. So we always like to wrap up with some advice. So other than calling you, Kristina, and we're going to get your information up here when we're done, but what are the top 3 to 5 key pieces of advice you might give a business owner who's listening right now and thinking, oh, that's me. I'm living what they're talking about, and I'm dreading it, or I didn't know what it was, but I'm starting to understand what's happening here. So what are some advice you could give them to kind of get them moving in the right direction?
So the first thing I would say is, if you're in a place where you're burned out or you're overworked and you have no time for anything, and you're consistently chasing, putting out fires, and I know this will be the hardest thing to do in the first place, but it's take a step back and hold up the mirror, right? Take some time to really think about what are the things that are happening in the business because of you, and then take another step back and think about what are the things happening in the business despite of you right now. So that's the first sort of self-reflection. And depending on your style, you can, do this with either ChatGPT is a really fun one to sort of challenge yourself and check blind spots. You can maybe go to do some journaling, writing it down. And depending on how your brain works, right? Some people like to verbally process. So a close friend, maybe that has nothing to do with the business, and that will challenge you. Those are good ways to sort of gauge and temperature check where are you at in terms of being ready for this. Because if you're not ready to make the change, then there's no point of even thinking about it, right? Because if you're not coachable, if you're not willing to do what it takes in your mind, then it's going to be really even more difficult than it already is to get there. The next thing I would think about are if you're thinking, okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I have too much to do. There's obviously a book called Buy Back Your Time, but the way that you can do that, the first thing you can do that is start listing the things that you're doing on a regular basis that you hate doing and that aren't of high value. And if you can do that and then just SOP them or get ChatGPT to SOP them, that's your best assistant these days is ChatGPT, and delegate them to someone who is better at them than you, or who, their hourly rate, if you had to calculate it, was, more suited to these kinds of tasks, then that would be a great thing. And then finally, I would also say that to reflect on, and this kind of goes into the first point as well. Actually, I'm going to skip this one if we can, but I'm going to go into the last thing that you need to think about before you're going to move forward, or if you're thinking, okay, I'm ready to move forward, is do you need a consultant, a therapist, or a coach? And that's a key differentiator. And I'll tell you why. It's because a consultant will come in and help you if you're saying, I want to move forward. I need a change, but I don't know how. I don't have the skill set, the knowledge. I do not know how. A consultant will come in and help you with that. If you're saying, I'm not ready, I can't pick up the mirror, I don't want to, and you're like heels in the ground and refusing anything, meaning you're stuck in your past, that's when a therapy for self-reflection could be really useful. And then for coaching, if you're saying, yeah, I want to do this, I'm going to do it, I'm ready to do whatever it takes, let's move forward, and I know how to do it, but it's just not working, that's when coaching is really useful.
Awesome distinction. Love it. Very cool. Well, this has been awesome. Amazing information. It's given me a whole new way to kind of think about things, because I deal with that transition a lot too, but from the human capital side. So it actually has given me a lot to think about. And I think it's super, super valuable. Kristina, if there are people out there listening and they're like, man, I got to talk to Kristina and learn more about this, how can we get in touch with you?
I'm on LinkedIn, so you can find me on LinkedIn. Or I'm sure we can somehow share my email address as well.
Oh, Matt on the spot. Hold on, give him 2 seconds. His fingers are tapping away back there. And then what was the other way? Oh, there it is.
There it is, email. Yeah, so reach out. I'm always happy to help.
And we'll put those in the liner notes of the podcast. And that's it. Those are the two ways.
Those are the two most effective ways. Yes, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Do we have the website as well? There it is. Great. Or you can check it out and learn more on the website. Kristina, thank you so much. I've enjoyed this conversation. It's been super valuable.
As have I. Thank you so much for inviting me and asking me questions about what I do. I do love what I do. And I always, when people get through that hard part and you see the light bulbs go off and that change happening, to me, that's why I do what I do.
Me too. It's very cool when you see that growth. And we like to say we redefine what a good employee looks like for our business owners. You know, they think they have good people, and then you get real pros in there, and they're like, oh, why didn't I do this before? But we need you to help transition us through there to get us ready. Thanks so much. Have a great afternoon, and we'll talk soon.
Talk soon.
Awesome. There you go, Kristina Tyler. That was incredible. I hope you got as much value out of that conversation as I did. I'd also like to thank you for tuning into the KeyHire Small Business Podcast. If you got value out of today's episode and you want to keep up to date on our new content, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought of the episode, or leave a comment and let us know if there's any topics you would like us to cover in the future, because we're here to help you. If you prefer to listen to your podcast, you can find us on Apple, Spotify, or whatever your favorite platform is. Just search up the KeyHire Small Business Podcast. Thanks for listening. I'm Corey Harlock, and until next time, stop grinding, start growing.